Gotta love technology. I don't just maybe own a technology company, and I scares the bejesus out of me. So, especially things like microphones and screens and all that. But welcome. Make sure they can hear me. Brenda says yes. Attendees say yes. Okay, perfect. Everybody can hear me. I wanted to welcome you to Greenwood Library. It's been a while since we were here. We have done our meeting here years ago, and we're very thankful for them to bring us back. The location that we've been using has moved off towards Indy, and they don't have their space anymore. So this is a nice central location for everybody, and they just did a beautiful, amazing renovation. So if anybody's interested afterwards, we'll do a quick tour. I don't know how quick it'll be. I did the tour with Cheryl last week. We had our whole staff in. I don't know if you guys know it, but most of our staff is remote. So we had a lot of people in our whole tech side in, and used one of their rooms and had everybody in. It was much nicer than it was last Friday, which was Taylor Swift downtown Indianapolis. Parking was $80 a day, so we tried to avoid that for the entire team. But we got the tour, and I have been on a quick tour before, and it's just more amazing than I thought. So definitely between this and lunch, if you want a tour, Emily will be back, I think, to do tours. No, Cheryl's doing tours. So take the time to do that, because they have some really amazing spaces. So we thank them. Quick introductions for, I think everybody here knows me. I'm Lisa. I co-own with Brian AVC Technology. My dad started it. Actually, really, my grandfather started it. I think so that when I was born, my parents would move back from California. And then my dad, Brent, ran it for years. He actually is the founder of the software, I guess you call it. He's done most of it. He might have helped me a couple days ago work on a couple things I was struggling with, because he's got a lot of experience in that. And then Brian and I have run it for 20 years. So I'm happy to be here. Back in the back on the right, we have Brenda. Everybody knows her probably. If you have billing questions, ask her. If you didn't get your bill, you didn't like your bill, all those things, those go to Brenda. And if you have any organization questions, like where's the link for the meeting or anything like that, make sure that you ask her that, because the rest of us probably know very little about what's going on. But she is your go-to person. Kelsey over here is new. She joined our team 3 weeks ago. She joined and I dumped her in. So some of you have probably talked to her. She comes from a library bookkeeping background, so she knows things I don't know. And then I know things she doesn't know. So, and Jolene, between the three of us, generally we know it, but she's definitely got a side of it that we don't have as much of. So welcome her. She's gonna jump right into busy season, so you'll get to talk to her come January, February too. And then over here we've got Jolene. I'm sure most of you have talked to Jolene. So she is end all be all bookkeeper, answer questions. She does all that. She is leaving us in the end of February. I don't know, you can ask her at lunch if you want about what she's doing, but she's got some cool things going on with some tell me what it is.
Natural health related.
Natural health related. I don't know, you get details from her. So she's moving on. She's been doing that for the last few months. Few months more. She's gone part-time for us. So you might have heard that you get me on the phone a lot on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Jolene's doing that, and she's going to move more into that. So we will miss her tremendously. We might call her back at some point. On a for rent basis. We'll lease her out. But I know everybody loves her. So Kelsey will step in and help with all of that. We're getting her all trained up, and between the both of us, we'll get there. I meant to check. I don't know if Brenda, off the top of your head, we've added new libraries this year. About how many we're at? I think around 135-ish in the state. So we're over half. That was always my goal. Can we get over half? There are a few that we'll never get. So, and I get that. But we're happy to have and you guys are really. We do what we do because of you. So we try to do things that make life easier. We try to not take away reports. like we did last year, then we put them back when you ask for them because we didn't realize. I told somebody the other day, I said, I'm never going to take away a report again because even if you think no one's using it, somebody is. So I won't ever do that again. I learned my lesson this year. The deduction report, if you've missed that this year, we probably gave it back to you, but if not, it's coming back. People do use that, even though there's a different way to submit. So anyway, introductions. Lunch information, like I said, this is not for those of you online. If you were here, I would feed you lunch. We'll have lunch right behind us in the room back there after the meeting. We'll do a tour, I think, before that. Which is better for you? Are you good after? Let's do a tour after then, so that our food doesn't get cold. Does that sound good? So we'll do a tour after, we'll eat lunch, and then Cheryl will take us on a tour. Brenda has
yours on because you're online. Say hello. So say hello.
Oh, hello online. Check.
We'll probably turn you off because we can't get her to stay in front of the camera, but they wanted to see.
Okay. Should I pose? Okay, now I'm gonna turn it off so that or I guess I'll try to stand still. I'm not much of a still stander. I'll try to stand still in front of here for at least a few minutes. But so yes, so lunch will be in the back. It's the same barbecue that we've had in the past. They do a pretty good job. The library staff will also be feeding through. We bought enough lunch for all of them. So if you see people that you're like, why are you here? You don't have to kick them out. They should be here. So we'll go there. And then meeting guidelines, restrooms are just outside on the left. I always get confused by them. They both say restroom, but they are men's and women's. There are cute little pictures there. I don't know why I get confused, but I have walked in. Yes. I have only walked into the men's one time, and luckily no one was in there. I was like, this is not the right place. So anyway, but the women's is on the right, and Steve, the men's is on the left. And I think otherwise there is coffee and Bismarck's and cinnamon rolls, or it looks like maybe just Bismarck's over there. This is not I can't move once Lisa starts talking meeting. If you feel the need to get yourself a Bismarck, go get it. If your coffee is empty and you need it to stay awake, go get it. We're all good. If you need water, it's also there. So do that. Anything else I need to cover from the team? Nope. Okay. And we will go straight into too many things open on my screen. All right. We already talked a little bit about who we are, just so everybody knows. We've been in business about 50 years. I think everybody knows that. We do a lot of accounting and payroll, but we also, I checked this morning, we have 35 libraries that we manage all of their IT for. So if you're interested in that, we specialize in that, love that. It's kind of a passion of mine to go in and really make sure libraries have what they need. It's become more and more, that you're spending your budget on the right things, you're getting the right things for your patrons and your employees and that kind of thing. So if you have any interest in that, there are a few customers in here. Talk to them. I should give you a tag. We love you. We love our accounting customers too. Next up, we already talked a little bit about Brian and I. I call myself the Chief Happiness Officer. I didn't want CEO or CTO or CFO, or I decided CHO was good. I really focus on keeping the customers happy and the employees happy, both of which are, you have to balance all of that. We have a great team right now. We just got together. I should have put a picture in. All of us, we got most of us together for dinner and an escape room last week, and some meetings too, some of us, but I'm happy to report we all escaped. One of them happened to be a cybercrime and stopping the cyber criminal. we decided maybe some people said that we didn't really escape because that was an advantage. We believe that it wasn't, because really we were stopping the criminal, not the cybercrime. But we had a great time with that. Brian, who is usually here, is not. His dad has some medical things going on, so he's in Florida helping him out. But he too is very involved. He's definitely the tech side of the world. He's smart in that way. And I, everybody says you own a tech team. Why can you not print? And I say, I have a tech team for that. I don't need to fix my printer. But it's always fun. So that's us. Here is I guess I should have put team names there. I've already introduced everybody here. I wanted to put another picture up here, especially for the people online. This is who you're talking to. It's kind of nice to put a face with a name. In fact, we love having you here. For those of you that made the drive, it's very important to us. We like to put faces with names and get to actually meet the people that we talk to, not every day, but some of you we talk to quite often. And so this is kind of for them to be able to do that. It's great. Brenda looked at numbers the other day, and pre-COVID, when we were at the spaghetti factory, we had 70 people. So a lot of you have decided to go online, you online people. A lot of people have decided to go online, and that's okay. We're all very good at that now, but we love the ones of you that you get a gold star for. Some of you I know had to get up very early to make the drive up here, and we appreciate you for that because this is an important meeting for us. We enjoy doing it. All right. One last little plug for things. This is something new. I think I talked about it last year. It's patron computers. We know that patron computers are huge in libraries, and we've struggled for years with disk protection. If you've heard Deep Freeze or Centurion Guard, both of those cause IT teams just heartbreak, or heartache, or heartburn, because you lock things down, and then especially in today's world where you need to put security updates on, it's hard. Mostly Miles on our team, if anybody's ever talked to him, really worked on this, and it basically allows you to do all the things that those do without freezing the computer, so you can still apply updates. You don't have to freeze it and thaw it and freeze it and thaw it and reboot it and that kind of thing. So we're pretty excited about it. If you have any interest in that, you don't have to have our IT services to do that. Currently, most of the people that do, we rolled it out to them first to see how it works, but it's a really cool program. It's just, it does all the things like, it doesn't allow people to log into their Google accounts, and it doesn't allow you to save tax documents, or it does, but then it removes them and that sort of thing. So it's a pretty cool thing. From me, who's been in the library space for pretty much my whole life, usually I say Shelbyville is not here this year. I think they've got stuff going on, but I think at 15, my dad dragged me around running wires for Ethernet in the building. I think we did it twice because we did it wrong the first time. But that's my world I grew up in, and to see something that helps the patron computers, it was a good thing because, some people think, oh, everybody's got a computer now, but I've been in your libraries and I know that lots of people come in to use the computers. So anyway, all right. Into the accounting and payroll stuff. This is our phone number, our email. And the best way to get help during busy season, especially really the whole year, but you'll see we've got 3 of us now. If you call my individual line and leave a message, who knows when I'll get back to you, because I may not get to listen to that voicemail for a while, but we've got all kinds of people answering the 225-4609. You're most likely to get to a person with that number. In busy season, we love it. If you use accounting@avctechcorp.com, just shoot us an email what your problem is. The thing that does for us is if it's a question that anyone can answer, any of us can pick it up. If it's a real doozy of a question, and maybe Lisa should probably call you, I'll know to call you for that one instead of you calling, getting someone and me not being available, or maybe you need Jolene and Jolene's not available. It just helps us be able to answer everyone quicker. If you call and leave a voicemail, then I have to listen to the voicemail. Then I have to write it down and get it to the right person. Whereas if you just shoot a ticket, and if you want to call first, and if you don't get someone, hang up and send a ticket, that's okay too. And if you leave a voicemail, we will help you still too. And honestly, we have, some of you may have talked, in fact, raise your hand if you've talked to Lindsay. Yeah, so there's a few of you. Lindsay is, she does all of our IT phone answering, and we've recently added her to our accounting phone tree. She doesn't do a lot of accounting questions. I think the only one she's really confident on is if you get the message that means you have two open. She knows that message and she says, do you have two open? Other than that, she usually just takes and creates something for Jolene or Kelsey or I, and or she'll make, one of us might be available by that time. So Lindsay's great. If you call that number, you might get her, especially during busy season. Those are the best ways to get a hold of us. And the reason I emphasize that is most of you don't have my phone number anymore, but okay. Any questions? I hate being the one to do all the talking. Today we'll cover tips and tricks. We'll cover changes to the accounting program, which there are actually very few this year, changes to the payroll program. We'll go run real quick through what the accounting and payroll year-end checklists are, any warnings, and then how the big question of how to schedule your update. I know we were talking yesterday and I'm like, block your calendar now if you have any doctor's appointments, because it will fill up as soon as we send out that link. You guys are all going to click on it. There's plenty of slots, so no need to hurry. So we'll talk about that, and then questions and suggestions. One final thing is backing up your software. I think that was last year, State Board of Accounts put something in their bulletin that you have to be backing up daily and do test restores. If you are not doing that currently, we do have software that can do that. We have that on quite a few customers. There's a fly. So if you aren't doing that and you are interested, talk to us about that. Notes from the design team. If you are using a receipt budget, you have to put a 0 in each category you are budgeting. So basically what this is, and I'm not going to pop between, but how many people in here use a receipt budget? Nobody. Okay. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it. If you're online and you use a receipt budget, just make sure probably the first receipt of the year, every line item that you budget, go in and put a $0 receipt in. It doesn't show up if you don't have a 0 in, if you don't have a transaction. So that's not new for this year. If you have an HSA, if you've added an HSA this year and you haven't told us about it, we'll need to modify your W-2 to make sure we get that in the right box. So let us know that. That's one of them that isn't standard. So we have to manually do those. The last,
That's the question.
Yeah.
Neither one of us know what an
HSA. Oh, HSA. The question was, what's an HSA? Health Savings Account. So some libraries will add that as a benefit where they donate to the savings account. Good question. The other thing I wanted to point, and this is more of a technology thing, but Windows 10, Office 2016, and Office 2019 all go end of life, meaning Microsoft will no longer support them in October of next year. What does that mean to you? Immediately, absolutely nothing. It will not change. That's not like it's going to disappear from your computer. But what it does mean is as we get further and further from that date, they don't release security updates anymore. And in, back in 10, 15 years ago, all the updates were functionality updates. Almost every update they do now is security. Somebody finds a hole, they fix it. So that's something to keep in mind. If you are running Windows 10, I know a lot of you are running Office 2016 and Office 2019. Those are all going end of life. So if you have a source for that, perfect. I would recommend, especially on your highly used machines that have data that is important on them, to make sure you update that. If you have a source for getting your Office licenses, perfect. If you don't, we can help you with that. They do sell both the renewal subscription licenses, and you can still get what is the traditional license where you pay for it once and it, you have it for the rest of ever. So, and it just depends on your library and what you're doing to what license you need. Okay, tips and tricks. Look for green. I'm gonna try to share my screen a little bit. Cool. So this is, if you aren't in our Facebook group, which I should have put a little QR code so you could scan it. I posted out on our Facebook group, and this one is the one that won. So this is probably what it will be. There were a few other choices. I think everybody liked the contrast of this one between the buttons and the screen. So we're going with green this year. Otherwise, that didn't change. So just make sure you look for that. Very good at this. I should be better. Okay. So yeah, look for green for 2025. The reason we do that is because when you're at the end of the year, beginning of the year, switching back and forth, you can hopefully not put the wrong transactions in the wrong software. It happens to the best of us sometimes, but you know, that hopefully helps with that. Always call AVC when you have a new user. Never give someone your password. If you are sitting down at the computer by yourself, you need it, and you logged in, you need to have your own user. We don't charge for users. We try to make it easy to be users. Don't share them. That's a State Board of Accounts rule. We do track who does what. So keep that in mind, and not to say that anyone's doing anything nefarious, but it is really just a checks and balances, internal controls as to everybody needs to have their own, even if you're just looking at it and don't plan to do anything. Go ahead and call us and we'll get you a new user. Where is the posting button? And I decided today, this is really interesting for me because I can hardly see the screen from here, but I can't move because then they can't hear me. So this red button right here is the posting button. For those of you new, I think we've had quite a few that moved from other systems that automatically post. So you put it in there, you can't change it. That's not how our system is. There's a post button. Basically what posting does is it makes sure you cannot no longer change them. So if you post vouchers, you can't change anything. And that's what posting does. I will tell you, and maybe we'll do a show of hands in the room, how many people post their vouchers and receipts every month? Yeah, this is normal. Most people post at the end of the year. So close out the year, upload your AFR, get all your numbers and things in order, and then post. And then what that means is I'm done with this year. I know that it's solid and I don't need to change anything. If you want to post every month, you can. You know, if you have trouble balancing because you accidentally forget and go back and change things, I suggest posting because that'll remind you, because you will no longer have that little edit button. It just goes away. So, but in general, I would say most of our customers post at the end of the year, after your AFR, because we all know sometimes things need to change when you're doing that. Oops. Gotta share my screen just right so I can see it all. Okay. If you're balancing and have, okay, this is for the end of the year. Actually, this is for all year. I always like to remind people this because I get it often. If you're balancing or reconciling your bank statements and you have an EFT, so, you know, an ACH, an electronic transfer of money that didn't happen, you need to look at why. Because if it didn't happen that month, is it ever going to happen? Did you initiate it? Did you just create the voucher and not initiate the payment? Did you know, did the payment go through a different way? So I always check, you know, if you see that, go, why was that? And it may be your federal taxes, you did them on the 31st. They didn't post to the 1st. So it may be very valid, but it also may be something that you want to think of. You know, you need to just ask yourself, why did that not post? Definitely, this is important, the end of the year, beginning of the year. If you bring over ACHs from 2024 to 2025, and then it doesn't close in January, it automatically closes those. So that's important. We'll get people that can't balance in February and they're like, where'd that go? And it's because it automatically cleared it when it really didn't clear. So definitely check those from 23 to 24, but it's always a good practice to look at that because, you know, it could be that you did your IRS voucher and then somebody came in and needed you and you forgot to actually pay the IRS. So it's always good to check, especially with the IRS, because they like to charge you fees and interest and everything starting like 10 minutes after it's due. So you want to make sure you get those paid. If you pay your taxes in the same month as payroll and you don't have a zero in all your tax accounts, there's a problem. So my recommendation is always has been, never will change, is if you run payroll, you know, and you do your last payroll, run your taxes. I know they're not due till the 10th. I know the state isn't due till the end of the next month. I don't care. Keep it in the same month. That way you can easily tell when you pull a financial report, you took in all this money and you paid it out and it's zero. Just a double check. It's just another way to make sure that those things are getting done correctly. And if it's not, if you can't figure it out, call us. You know, we'd much rather you do that than say at the end of the year, go, man, these haven't balanced for months. And then we have to figure out where it got off, why it got off. Did you overpay? Did you underpay? But pay it in the same month. Even if you just create the voucher for the date in the same month and pay it 3 days later, that's okay too. It's just like an open check, but it allows you to double check. You know, I think with accounting and bookkeeping, the biggest thing is making sure what you have is right. And these little tips from libraries from the last 30 years are little things that help just make sure everything's right. Anybody else have a great tip or trick they want to share in the room or online? I can't see comments, so any questions? Nope. Okay. More tips. Never change a payroll after you created the Nacha file. This seems like an easy one, but it is so easy to forget. You go in and you do your payroll, and then you create your Nacha file, and you go, oh, crud, I forgot that so-and-so had a vacation day, and you go back in and you add it, and you recalculate it, and then you don't recreate the Nacha file. So you upload your Nacha file and they all of a sudden got shorted 8 hours. Then you post it and it's different than what you actually paid them. And then we have to fix it. So always, I would love to have a button that says, don't forget your Nacha file, but it would be really annoying if it had that every time. I tried to figure out a couple years ago because that was when more people were starting to do it and they weren't remembering that, but I couldn't figure out a way to make a button that reminded you without yelling at you every time you did something. So you just got to remember, but that Nacha file is important if you do direct deposit. If you don't do direct deposit and you want to, just so you know, for us, that's not an additional charge, although it is a pain in the neck for us to help you set up. I've thought about it, but it is, we don't charge extra for that. Your bank might charge you extra. But you know, it is a nice feature and it also saves you printing checks and, you know, that sort of thing. So, we do support that for you. My recommendation is give us at least a couple weeks. Some banks are on it. They know exactly what they need and they can tell us what to change. Some banks have no idea. So it's kind of like drawing straws. You're like, okay, I think this is what they want. We try it. Nope, that wasn't quite it. The banks will tell you that that is a standard file. Having worked with, I don't know, 30 or 40 banks in the state, it's not. Some people like a 0 before the federal ID number, some want a space, some even want a 1. Some like a debit file, a 627 record, some are like, why is this here? So they're fairly standard is what I would say. So give us a couple weeks, don't call me the day before and say, I want to do this. It also takes some time to get it set up with the bank. Oh, how and why to use the clear zeros button on the make voucher screen. Does anybody know what the clear zeros button is? Okay, I see some shaking hands. Looks like most of you do. Basically what that does is if you have defaults in there and you hit clear zeros, it will clear out anything that you didn't spend money in. it's a great way to make your vouchers look pretty. You know, we always like non-cluttery vouchers. So that's a great way to do that. If you aren't using the defaults per vendor, highly recommend that. If you basically you set up all the defaults and that and I can show, let me pop over to accounting. So the defaults are in this lower section down here, and it's basically every thing that you would ever spend, every account that, or fund that you would ever spend out of for that voucher or for that vendor. Recommend putting those in there. Not only is it easy for you, the ones that have done it for 10, 15, 25, Steve, I don't know how many years, 28 years. You know what accounts you use for what vendors. But if you ever want to bring someone new in, makes their job a whole lot easier. Or if you're the bookkeeper and you're on vacation and the director needs to write a check, whole lot easier and consistent to put the vendors in there, because then it just brings it over. If you want to use a different one, you can still choose a different one. But having those there is nice. If you pay things on a credit card, more people are using credit cards these days. I recommend putting anything you would ever spend from on there and then use that clear zeros button. Use the clear zeros button up here in the corner to clear out any that you didn't use. So put them all on there. 15 of them is fine. Put in what you use, hit clear zeros. It's easy. That's just a little trick to how to make things quicker and easier if somebody needs to take over for you. Questions on that one?
No, there's.
Okay.
Check the do not print box, so I don't accidentally print for taxes.
Oh, yes. So does everybody in the room know about the do not print box? Okay, the do not print box is down on the lower left. And if it's for taxes for your IRS vendor, you should click it on the vendor screen because that'll do it on all of them. AVC, for instance, now has the ability to pay online. If you want to make ours, just check it on the vendor screen and it will know never to pay a check. I will say I got questions earlier today, so I'll cover that now since we're talking about do not print check. I had somebody ask if it's okay with State Board of Accounts if we use electronic payments, and it is. We have actually a lot of libraries that have gone to that, and the reason they've gone to it is we've had, I bet, a dozen libraries hit with fraud this year. People are stealing their checks out of the mailboxes, they're changing them, and then they are cashing them. They're changing who they're written to. And then they have to close their accounts and there's all kinds of a mess. And so a lot more electronic fund transfer is actually safer than printing a check and putting it in the mail. And I guess I'm not sure exactly on what you need to have through your board, how those get approved. But it is possible from State Board of Accounts and actually is recommended in some cases. While we're talking about that, I'm off subject. Positive pay. We've also had a lot of those libraries, especially the ones that have had fraud. They're using positive pay. And basically what positive pay is it's a file that you upload to your bank that says, these are the checks I printed today. And they won't cash it unless it's on your list with the vendor and the number and the amount that you gave. So our software does that. It's pretty easy. It is not a, just click on the button. In fact, Rita, I'm going to call you back. So on, because Rita just asked me about it. If you go, like I said, this is always exciting for me. If you go into file maintenance and I cannot read these, system information. You think I would know where that is? 22.
You don't see it on your screen at all?
I can't see it on my screen at all. Well, the reason I can't see it on my screen is because I've got it extended. So there's a reason.
Oh.
But there's this down here, there's this account number. bank account number. You have to put the bank account number. The only thing you need to do to turn on positive pay in our system is put the bank account number in. And once you do that, it will create a file. Puts it probably in your transfer folder where most of the other ones go. And then you can create that file and upload it. Some banks charge for it. I don't, some don't, I think. But that's the only thing you have to do to turn that on in our software. I need a little pop-up box that says you didn't put the bank account number in or something. But that is a feature that a lot of our libraries are using now because of the fraud that's happening. Yes, Brenda.
Just wanted to say that they believe that the board has to make a resolution to allow those transactions.
Okay. So-
And somebody said they use positive pay and really like it.
Yeah, so,
If you created your checks and then you created the positive pay and then you realize you want to add one more check and you haven't uploaded it to the bank yet, can you create a positive pay again and it just copies over top of it?
yes,
Okay.
you just have to have them checked. So probably you won't have them checked. What it does is it creates a file with every check that you have checked, marked in your list.
Okay.
So check the ones you want on your positive pay file and send them. And the question was, can I create a file and then create another file? Yes, if you bring up the whole year, you could send them a whole year's worth if they were checked in your checklist. Elsie? Okay.
With that for AVC.
So I'm gonna restate that for the people on the phone. Like I said, Kelsey's got some knowledge that we don't have. So, so the resolution for the board needs to be for the ACH payments need to show who can make them, what vendors, that kind of thing, or,
You can get as detailed as between what dates, depending on what you're allowing to be paid by ACH should be included. And that also needs to be updated in your internal controls that you can make those ACH payments.
okay. Let me repeat it first before I forget, and then I'll answer your question. So basically, who can do it, what dates those can be done, and then you need to update your internal controls, on that. Cheryl?
And for instance, we have one of those resolutions, we've had for a long time, but it states why we would do it. So it's limited to utilities and benefits and things like that that need to be done between board meetings.
Okay.
And so this use of it means you would need to broaden that.
Okay, so what Cheryl said was, you know, you need to, it limits what you can do. Like utilities and that kind of thing, the things that need to be done between board meetings and that sort of thing. So that resolution needs to be as specific as possible to not handcuff you, basically, is what I'm hearing. So good to know. The last one is I got a new computer, now what? If you get a new computer, we advise that a lot of times. I've seen some very old accounting computers, and if they're running non-supported software, they're the biggest security hole in your network kind of thing. If you get a new computer and things are transferred correctly, with a lot of the profile transfers now, it'll just show up and work. I will tell you that what Microsoft does is if you get an updated version of Microsoft Access, they put it in a different place, and then your shortcut doesn't know how to work. Because it looks to one place and they put the new version in the other place. I don't know why they can't keep putting them in the same place, but they don't. So you may need to call us and we're happy to help you redo your shortcuts and everything. The one thing that you do need to remember, if it's on a server, you have a mapped drive for that. And you'll need to make sure your IT team maps that same drive. Again, if they can't give you, if you have an H drive now, they can't give you A. They need to give you H. H is important. The software looks for H. So I've talked to a few of them and they're like, well, it's the same place. And I said, but it is not the same letter, and Access cares. So just make sure they do that. And if they have any questions, we're happy to talk to them too. More than happy to do that.
If we were changing to the default date format of just the 25 instead of 2025, because I've done that, but it changes the long date in Excel. Like, it will mark it to where it takes off the 2025 and it'll just put the 25.
Oh,
But is what I'm curious about, is that is going to alter like the end of the month reports for the uplink upload. Because they're
No.
so particular in that.
no, those are fine.
Okay.
Because we code in 4-digit year in those. Oh, the question was if I change, and in fact, I have later in my slide, that was a good question. Later somewhere I have, you can only have a 2-digit day, 2-digit month, 2-digit year, because some of those reports are so tiny that you cannot fit the 4-digit month in there. You're probably hitting it about now. I've had a few calls on it already. It's the region. If you type in region in the search at the bottom of your screen, you can just change it to the 2-digit. Bailey was asking if I change that, will it change my files that I upload, for like workforce development, perf and all those? It does not. Those are coded to what the file wants. So it looks at the date and puts the right one in there. If it changes it in Excel, I didn't know that, but Kelsey seems to, she's shaking her head. But it is, and there are a few places where we could maybe make them bigger, but really the reports are designed for the 4 digits or the 6 digits, not 8 digits. And that's because some of them are so tight on there, we'd have to make the font so tiny that no one could read them. Especially the older I get, the less I can read anything. I need it about this big. I look at lots of reports, but, so yeah. So does that answer your question? The other thing with the new computer is if everything works well, it asks you to log in and everything, you're good. If it doesn't ask you to log in, call us because that's not done right. And the other thing is you'll probably need a transfer folder. Most all of you use something that dumps into a transfer folder. That is sometimes moves over, sometimes doesn't. So those are things to check for. And Lynn's laughing because I put her computer in and I installed it myself and I forgot her transfer folder. So I'm pretty sure that's why she's laughing at me. Because I don't know how many times I've had to add a transfer folder and I left hers be. So I think I was probably talking about grandbabies too much or something. Hers, not mine. I don't have any. All right, standard fund types. I left this slide in because I think this was 2020 when these were adopted. I think that's when I got the panic calls. I wasn't even in town. And I got like 10 calls in 10 minutes. I'm like, what is going on? And it was you guys were on a break from the SBOA meeting and everybody called me. We all survived that and then COVID hit, which was even more exciting, but not everybody is using these. So I put them in here so you can look at your funds. These are what the State Board of Accounts says to use. If you use 200.1 for a secondary gift fund, that's not what they want you to use. They want you to use 226 through 275. If you have trouble with that, questions, let me know. These are the standards though. They're not my standards, they're their standards. The one thing I will say is don't change them yourself because it is a process. Especially you cannot change them in the middle of the year without a lot of help from us. And even at the beginning of the year, we'll need to make sure that those get changed appropriately because if you have defaults, if you have vendor defaults in there for your gift fund and you change it from 200.1 to 226, then the default doesn't show up correctly. So we just want to make sure that everything, if you want to change any of these, let us know, but we're happy to help you change them so that you're kind of in the standard. Libraries from other, or ideas from other libraries. You guys are the experts of this. Remember, I've become more of an expert in the last few years, but really all of you guys are the experts in what we're doing. We're the software providers. So I always like to listen to what other people say. And these are a couple, creating a vendor for interfund transfer and interbank transfer. So a lot of people use the library as their interfund and interbank transfers. You can do your transfers that way. Some people create a vendor for that. So if you ever want to know, did we do what fund, and that question at the end of the AFR that's like, your transfers don't match. I spent hours looking for transfers that don't match. If you use an interfund and an interbank transfer, it's just kind of easier to pull them up because you can do an audit report for that vendor and you can see exactly what you did. So just a suggestion there. I thought it was a good one. Use projects and departments to track specific things. That's another one. I know you have a list of things on your on the AFR that you have to put like what you spent on different things. if you use a project for that, you can easily pull a list at the end of the year, and I'm trying to remember what they are. Yes, so some of those things, if you put a project on them, then you can easily, you're not going through and finding bills, you just pull a project report and away you go, you've got your numbers. We try to make it easier for everybody with that AFR because it's always exciting and Gateway is so particular. Any other tips, tricks, ideas? Kelsey's got one. A boy. Okay.
Like a vendor that's just for. That, and you don't have a $0 voucher sitting with that.
Yeah, so the tip was a void voucher vendor. So these are all specific vendors. So a void voucher vendor, if you have to void it, either you void a check because, you had a check in the printer and somebody sent something else to it. Or if you just have to void something, you can move it to the vendor so you don't have all these random, you know exactly where you voided. My suggestion would be use the void check vendor and then in the explanation, put who it was originally to, and then you don't have a mix of voided checks. And if anybody says, what did you void this year? You can pull up a report and you know exactly what you voided. And that could be before or after the check is printed. You can just change the vendor on that when you're voiding those. Anything else? My wonderful online crew. Can you time check me? Any math?
10:50.
Thank you. All right, accounting changes. I'll be honest with you this year. We've done some fixes and cleanups when the software's been in here 30 years. There's little fixes and cleanups that we've done this year, but there wasn't anything big that I thought we needed to change. And I feel like, why mess up a good thing? So for accounting, one thing I did do that some of you might notice, the anal ones in the room, which I know no bookkeepers are ever anal or OCD, will find that it printed the top and the bottom of the voucher printed in a different order than it displayed. And so now it prints fund number, account number, fund number, account number, so that they're all in order. I had a few people ask me for that this year, and I think it's a great idea. Then you can easily tell what's there. But it was not set up that way for probably 30 years. So we changed it so it does sort on the printed ones. So if you're looking for something specific, it's easy. That's the main thing that we've changed in accounting. And we'll go over to the software a little bit, but I'll talk through accounting and payroll changes. Payroll changes, we added the ability to correctly process perf with Millie Morgan. So how many people have Millie Morgan perf people? Lynn's got one. There's a few of you. I've been asked this multiple times. So what Millie Morgan says, and I guess it's a perf plan, you call it. Millie Morgan is for your employees that are of retirement age that still want to contribute to perf. So you're no longer required to do the 11%, but you do the 3%. So my answer has always been, we'll go in there and put a 0 in it. It will calculate. So this one, and I'll show you that. There's a little checkbox. Whoops. I don't have payroll open. Hold on. There is a little checkbox. Oh. Nope. And we're totally guessing where I'm at, so. There we go. So there's a little checkbox right here that says Millie Morgan. And you just check that box and it knows to not calculate the 11%, only calculate the 3. So those are the kind of things that our software needs to add. When perf adds a plan, we have to do that kind of thing. But I don't want to change things just to change things, because change for no reason is no good. So that's one of them. If you have questions on that, it should be all set up for you. It will just not put it there. So. And then it will also. Okay. It will also, calculate correctly on your payroll report so that it doesn't put the right amounts in there. So I thought, as I was listening through things for people to change, that was one that I thought was actually, something that we should, as a software vendor, we should help you out and make you so you don't have to remember to do that, because we all know that you're doing 20 other things and it's easy to forget little things like that. Yes, Brenda.
That was my fault. I unmuted to see if they could hear me, but then it double here. Someone on here said, I'm doing Millie Morgan and I was told that the 3% is optional, which is, so I'm choosing not to have it withheld. My understanding is 3% is optional, but my employee is elected to do it. Is that correct?
Well, I am not a perf expert. I see some shaking of heads here. If they're not doing the 3% and they're not doing the 11%, they're not in perf. Would be my thought.
Well, and some employers choose to do 3% for their employees.
Right.
We do. So in that case, my employee could choose not to put in any more, but it's still going in, that 3% is still going in.
Right.
Yeah,
So what-
employee is electing to the 3% without.
I don't know. I'm not gonna answer a perf question because I'm definitely not a perf expert. But I can tell you that, in our software, and like Cheryl said, that Greenwood Library pays their 3%, their employees don't. Some libraries, the employee pays that. It's my understanding that you still pay that. If they're not paying 3% anywhere, then they're not participating in perf. Because the 11% is the optional piece, but I am definitely not a perf expert. That is something I try to learn from you guys most of the time. We added the deduction report back. If you guys remember, I should probably just. You get me being slow. I'm getting better though. The deduction report, that was right here, that I didn't think anybody used because you used it to submit for workforce development, and now we have a file that we upload, which in fact, if you're not using our uploaded file and you're manually putting those numbers in, call me. It's an easy thing to do, and it eliminates the risk of fat fingering a number and having it not right. But the deduction report I learned was actually in use. So I gave it back to everybody this year. So if you missed it and were too shy to call me and ask me for it, it's back. So that's one other thing that we've added back. The 941 is printable. Again, that is actually an update from last year, but I think I only had one person notice that if you did page 2 of where you pay every payroll, the numbers weren't right on the form if you printed it directly. The data was right and the words were right, but the IRS renumbered some things and they weren't right. So I fixed that. I don't think anybody really cares about like the IRS. They got their data, but I wanted it to be right. And then just a reminder, I think I remind you this like 12 times. We change the state and federal tax rates. We do not change your county tax rate. So if your county tax rate changes, that is your responsibility. Or if you have an employee in another county and their tax rate changes, that is your responsibility. There are a couple ways to do that in the software if you're changing it for everyone. If you're just changing it for one person, go into their employee record. If you're changing it for everyone on file maintenance screen, there is a place to do it for everybody if you want to update it. I will say I just checked yesterday and I have not seen, last year the county tax rates changed in October. I haven't seen an updated county tax rate list yet. So either they're not changing or they're not telling us yet. I don't know which. So just keep that in mind. I always recommend first of the year, check that. That's one that if you miss it in your first payroll, honestly, it's not a huge deal. It's probably going to change a little bit. And it's like federal tax, it's calculated on a certain thing and then they'll get it back or they'll get charged more at the end of the year. So it's not like, oh my gosh, I ran payroll, I got to recalculate everything. I didn't change it. It's just we want to get it right, but we don't change the county tax rates. The Indiana tax rate, changed, I think it was last year or the year before, they basically instituted a change where it goes down a little bit every year until I think 2027. So it went down to 3% this year, from 3.05%. So you might notice, a quarter of a penny, but that has already been updated in the software, so you don't need to worry about that. We did that one for you. But it is changing. If people say, hey, my state tax, some people I found don't ever look at their pay stub, and some people are like, I changed by 2 cents. What changed? It might be the state tax rate. Additional tax deduction for the state. This was new last year, but I left it in my presentation this year because this is, you basically could add an additional deduction for the first time you claimed a dependent. So if I had a baby, please note, in 2024, I could claim them in 2024, but then in 2025, I couldn't claim them anymore. So I left this in because I wanted to remind you that if you had anyone that did that, you need to ask them for a new WH-4 because they need to change it probably, unless they had another baby and then they have another first time. But that's one, I don't know what legislator thought that having something that you can claim once and then have to change was ever going to be a good idea. But it's there. So I left it in there to remind you if you had anybody that did that to go ahead and do that. I already talked about that one. Filing federal W-2s. If you have more than 10 W-2s, you have to file electronically. If you haven't filed electronically before, this was also 10 last year, so you probably went through the pain last year, but I'm reminding you, you have to set up an account. And it's not like I log in and I create an account. It's a couple week process. You log in, you create an account, they send you an ID, you log into that ID, and it's a process. So do it now. Don't wait until January 15th or January 28th. Get it done now because you cannot submit your W-2s without it online. Most of you probably have it, but I wanted to remind everybody of that. And we, our software does print W-2s. I wanted to mention too, there are a lot of online options now for creating W-2s, where you can actually, they'll print them and file them and mail them to the employees and all of that. Which, especially for some of the smaller ones that you have to buy 50 W-2s to print 3, it might be more cost effective a lot of times, and I haven't done it in a while. I have a side little thing that I had to do some 1099s for, and it's like $1 to print, for them to, you give them the information for $1, they'll file it, they'll do all the stuff per person. So if you have 5 people, it might be cheaper than buying forms. So it's just something to look into. There are different, I think e-file was one of them. There's a quick Google search will give you some of those. But they do 1099s and W-2s. So that might be just an easier option. Not to say that you have to do it that way, but they'll do it. And 1099s too, you have to print one 1099 for the program person that came once in a year, or maybe the landscaper. It might be better to just create those 1099s in one of those online programs. You don't have to worry about printing them or getting them to them. And then you don't have to worry about filing them or all of that. It does all that. So just a thought.
Like when you said, hey, it takes that week-long process or whatever. It asks for like your home address and things like that. But I'm asking like, hey, so like, because it links to the employer, so I'm curious, like, it is your personal social security and your personal home address.
Yes. So the question was, when you do this SSA stuff, it asks for all kinds of personal information, not library information, personal information. From what I understand, I didn't do that because I didn't have to submit those. So we do it a different way. But from what I understand from everybody, there's no getting around it.
Yeah.
You have to tie it to your social security, which is really interesting, because if you change bookkeepers,
You have to update them, or it doesn't say?
I don't know. Kelsey's got an answer to this.
If you use your ID.
I needed to put a mic on her.
Your ID.me or your login.gov, so that it knows that the person doing this is this person. So when you go in using your ID.me or your login.gov, you create an account for yourself personally. And then what you're adding is the employer to your personal account. And that's what that code is for. So you say like, I need an employer, they mail the code to the employer, and that's that. So when the bookkeeper leaves, you can say, I'm no longer with this company anymore, and then that gets removed from your thing, from your personal account, and the new bookkeeper then has to go through that same process and have the company attached to their personal account. And so they can know
Who's submitting?
personally who's doing the taxes, because if that person is embezzling funds from the library and like doing something wrong, it's on that person and not the library.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I did that and I was like, I just messed up my future taxes. Okay, we are going through a different situation when getting our social securities added to things and we're like, hey, we can't. And I was like, but why can't I for this one? I just wanted to make sure. So-
Yeah. Okay. So the question that kind of was all this whole SSA thing, and what Kelsey was saying is basically what you're doing is you're tying your submitting things under yours, and then you're tying the library to you. So my recommendation is, first of all, if you have a change in who's doing that, definitely you want to go in there and remove them from the library and then add the new person, I'm guessing. And can I tell you how to do that? Probably not. But there's got to be a way, I'm assuming, for the library to go in and log in and say, this person's no longer allowed, I would think. And it's kind of it was interesting. That was the first year it happened. All right, end of year walkthrough. And I'm gonna try to talk faster, I guess, because probably.
11.
Okay, I got one thing. Okay, end of year walkthrough. We have found it very beneficial, I hope you guys have, to do a weekly webinar to help you walk through the end of year things. So we'll go slow, we'll talk through them, you can ask questions. So this is, when I'm done with 2024, I want to transfer things over. I want to work on my W-2s. We'll walk through each step of the W-2s. So my recommendation is pick one of these, especially the W-2s, and go, I'm gonna do it this day. Lisa's gonna show me how. And then if you have more trouble, call us after that. We're gonna probably still help you otherwise, but there's 135 of you now, so it is kind of hard for us to help every one of you. So if you pick one of these and go like, I want to have my W-2, I run my last payroll on the 30th of December, January 15th. I want to put that on my list, and I'm going to put 2 hours to do it, and we'll do one with Lisa, and then I'll finish it up and I'll be done. Those meetings will be good for that. And you can join twice. So like, maybe you're not done closing out 2024 yet. So you want to attend again on the 29th, because now you're ready to close it out and move everything over. Join for whatever piece you want. It's a come and go kind of thing. Highly recommend those. People, I think, have found those pretty helpful. And something else to say. Oh, I wanted to talk about W-2s. You don't have to wait till January to run your W-2s. If you do your last payroll on December 15th, December 16th, you can create your W-2s, because it only has to have all your payrolls on it. The only thing so you don't have to wait till December 15th or January 15th or January 28th when you call me in a panic because things aren't lined up or something's not right. They can be done as soon as you do your January or your December payroll, as long as you have your, because we don't give you the 2024 W-2 program until we give you your software. But if you want to run W-2s, I'll give it to you early, because I like to get those done. Once everybody gets done with their W-2s for the year, we all breathe a sigh of relief, because we know that we're not going to have any troubles, because they're scary for you, but they're even scarier for the 135 of you that we have to make sure work. So we like having those done. I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. I like to put in here things that you only do every once in a while. encumbering funds is one of those. So encumbering funds, and all you library people can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically what encumbering funds is I have 2024 money that I have spent, or I have ordered things, but I have not paid for yet. It is not like I've got leftover money and I want to take it with me. Can't do that. It is, I have spent it, I have a quote or an order for it, and they haven't billed me yet. So that's the only thing that is encumbering. It's not anything with leftovers, it's not anything, and in fact, what we recommend is, here's the list of invoices we're paying or bills we're, things we've spent money on. This is and it gives you a total. So you know what you're encumbering. The only thing that goes in that is what you've encumbered. So the way you do that is you go to your 2025 software and you create an account. I like to use the 3. I don't think it really matters what you use. Some people like to create multiple for different categories that they're spending out of. Some people like to do just a 2024 encumbered funds. And then the only bills you pay out of that are those that are on that spreadsheet that you created, so remember that. So basically you go into 2025, file maintenance number 1 here and then you'll pick the number that you want to create and you'll do that. And then you will go in and you're going to get a copy of all these slides. We don't send them out early because Lisa might add things to them the night before and then you wouldn't get them all. I did actually have it done, I think last week, but we've been adding the little things. So, and there's also on our training website this exact list. But so basically, and then you'll go in and you'll create an appropriation for it in file maintenance number 15. So you've got your budget. So you'll have your whole budget, which totals your Form 1. And then you'll have your encumbered amount, which will also be on there. So the total at the bottom would be your Form 1 plus your encumbered amount. So that's another thing to do. And then you just create the voucher, you use that account, and you're good to go. When that is empty, it's gone. And that really should probably be January or February, unless you have a really slow vendor. Any questions on encumbering? Like I said, yes, Cheryl.
One additional thing, if you have as a result, you need to encumber at the end of the year, because our 1-year project is through. So at the end of your first year, you need to encumber everything left in that fund for the same purpose it was originally encumbered, or including any interest you get on that during the year. So I'm about to close out, and we have this little tiny bit that I forgot in the last encumbrance that just, I can't spend.
Can't
So
spend.
eventually we'll, move it at our next sense.
Interesting. So just so everybody online heard that, basically, if you have like a construction fund and a bond issue, you have to encumber all of that and move it, or else you don't have it anymore, you lose it. So create an income, and if you have that case, if you have that and you have some little piddly laptop computers or books or whatever, I would do 2 different ones, like keep those separate. You would want to have multiple lines of that.
We didn't, do that, and we went to audited, they didn't say anything.
It was a new requirement 2 years ago.
We were audited for 22 and 23.
I created.
Yeah.
After we have skated through many things that we.
Yeah.
Yes.
This requires.
Works with lots of auditors. Some of them ask for everything and some of them are like, you're good.
Yes.
Do you have a question?
Technically.
Technically, that's the rule.
Well, she just sent me into, yeah. We finance our, right, we got a better interest. Anyway, we have a bunch of money, about $250,000. The attorneys told me that I tracked it on the spreadsheet and I keep all of the affidavits and they number the affidavits and they match the spreadsheet. So I have it on a spreadsheet. I don't have anything in the AVC system.
Yeah, I think you probably want to add it,
That freaks me out. Okay.
but we can help with that. We'll help figure it out.
It's room a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Well, we may want to figure out how, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
My with that question in mind, my recommendation is that all the money that the library has needs to be in the software. You shouldn't have any money anywhere that isn't tracked in the software. You should be able to pull a report and know exactly how much money you have. I'll find people, they're like, oh, we have investment accounts. Well, they're not in here. I'm like, that's money the library owns. It should be in here. So, if you aren't there, we can get that, we can help with that. We might send you to SBOA to figure out how they want us to do it from like, it's not here in 2025 and now all of a sudden it showed up. But we want to make sure that that's the case. All right. Okay.
If you have. Moving forward, you're tracking it. That's what the SBOA wants. They
Okay.
want, like, if you find it and it is a problem and it's over a certain amount of money, you have to let them know about it. Start tracking it, type in the notes, hey, we just started tracking this.
Would you do that, when you're, like, after you're audited the last time? Or would you do it in the mid-audit? So if you've been audited 2 years ago, but you've done this for one more year, unaudited year, would you fix the unaudited year, or would you just make a note?
Just make a note and moving forward, you go through it. That happened at the library that I was working.
Yeah.
Where I found it, it's just not, and they were like, just start tracking it now, type a note about it, and that.
Okay. So the conversation in the room is basically if you find lost money or find money that wasn't tracked, hopefully it wasn't lost, it was just not tracked. You can just put a note in and then start tracking it. And that way it's there. So, changes to appropriations. I'll talk through that one really quick. Basically, I'm hoping they can hear me if I stand up there. So basically changes to appropriations. Usually this happens when you run out of money in certain accounts at the end of the year and people have to move things around. So you'll do that. You can also do it. There are other reasons during the year to change that, but a lot of times that happens at the end of the year. So basically you go into, number 10, enter changes to appropriations. You'll add a line item for the minus and a line item for the plus, and you're good to go. That will change it. I always recommend if you do changes to appropriations, pull your appropriation report and make sure it looks like what you thought. Fund accounting has a great way of being backwards, like you have to kind of think differently. So sometimes you're like, well, I meant to pull it from here and put it in here, and I got the opposite. So once you do it, pull your appropriation report, make sure you got the intended results, and then then it's good. You can do that, yeah, and you'll see it's very detailed here. And I think somebody here can correct me, if you change appropriations within a category, it does not need board approval, but if you change between categories, you need board approval. I'm getting lots of nods. So if you change from 3.1 to 3.14, you're good. If you change from 3.1 to 4.1, not good. Need board approval.
This is so we never lose, we just do board approval for all of it.
Yeah. Well, that's why always my answer is always err on the side of board approval. It never hurts to have board approval.
And we may also change, if you get an insurance claim.
Yep.
Change your appropriation, or if you void a check that you're not going to replace, change your.
Yeah.
There also, so you can spend the money.
So what Rita's saying is there are other reasons for changes to appropriations. Refunds, if you get an insurance refund, or if you get a refund of a check because you overpaid or something, you can change it. You can do a change to appropriation to put that money back. The reason would be refund. You can do an insurance check. You can put that money back to do a refund. You cannot return something from 2024 that you spent, or you can't return something from 2023's budget and put a change to appropriations. You don't get that money back. If you spend it out of last year's budget, that doesn't matter. But for this year, if you get money back for something or a refund or insurance or whatever, you can do a change and put that money back so you can spend it again.
And there's one other thing. We had a potential insurance claim that we filed for 2023. We didn't know if we were gonna get the money, so I encumbered the money in case the insurance didn't pay the claim. Well, they paid the claim, so that's an encumbrance that we're not going to use. That's gonna hang out. And it happened to be a generator for one of our bookmobiles. Well, our other bookmobile needs a new generator, and I verified with the state board of accounts, I cannot use that encumbered money because it's for a different generator. It's the exact same generator. Same amount of money and everything, but they said, but I wanted to clarify because I.
Okay.
I didn't want, because I was gonna have this encumbrance hanging out and not get paid until 8 months later.
Right.
And I didn't want to take any chances, so I did verify with them just to make sure what
Okay.
I'm telling you. So, no, it's the same generators and four bookmobile, but it's not the one that we encumbered for.
Okay, so just so everybody on the call heard, if you encumber something for something, even though something else breaks or something, you can't use that. It is only for what you encumbered it for.
It's when she just said purchase order, can't be.
Ah.
If your funds-
Ah,
if your purchase order is for a different one, then you can't.
Okay.
use those.
so the answer is use purchase order for encumbered funds. Now, I think most of our people just use a spreadsheet, which I don't know if that's a purchase order or not. That depends on you. So there we go. So changes to appropriations, any questions on that? All right, we're gonna keep moving then, because I'm between you and lunch. Giving bonuses. I love this one. We've actually in the last few years had quite a few libraries that are able to give bonuses, which is great and wonderful and all that good stuff, but it causes the bookkeepers and the directors some heartache sometimes. My recommendation is if you want to do it the easy way, you'd be like, I'm gonna give everybody, all the part-time people get $100. You put that as an additional pay in their same payroll. So they don't get a separate check for it, but they see an additional $100 in their gross pay. That is by far the easiest. It doesn't, it doesn't make any changes. You just do it that way. The hardest way is when the board says, I would like you, I'm getting fingers pointed back there. I would like you to give everybody $200, not $200 gross pay, $200 net pay. So you have to figure out what $200 grossed up for taxes is, and then create that. Not a problem, but it is more challenging, especially as if you do like this person gets $200 and this person gets $350 and this person, you got to figure all that. Just for the record, for bonuses, and I'm going to go to the software, for bonuses, you only need to take out FICA and Medicare taxes. That's the rule. But I will tell you, let's do this. That if you give a large bonus, you want to keep that in mind because that means it's not getting taxed for state, county, and federal, which means that person's going to owe those taxes because we don't get bonuses federal tax free. So if you're giving extra large bonuses, you may want to talk to the person and figure out if maybe they want federal taken out of it.
Our guy said, don't call it a bonus, call it a stipend.
Call it a stipend.
And our board approved it that if, with qualifiers, if there's money in this account that is this amount, whatever. But it's gonna be a number of days paid up to a week.
Okay,
And we take that all.
okay. Okay, so what Cheryl said was the board approved up to a number of days if there's money allowed, and that, that would be obviously bonuses need board approval. But you can do, if it's a flat rate amount or, you can put it in here in additional pay. And then you could just either that will add it to their, it will add it to their gross pay, or you can do it where you, and let me go into the calculate pay. Getting better at this. You can do the calculate bonus button, which we used to always leave off, but we've turned on now because so many people started asking for it. And that will just calculate on the additional pay. So if you want to do it with their payroll, you'd use your regular calculate pay button. If you want to do it separate from the payroll, you're going to use the calculate bonus button. Couple things on bonuses. The calculate bonus button will only take out FICA and Medicare. We'll never take out federal. Can't do it, doesn't do it. only takes out FICA and Medicare.
Take out growth.
And it does take out perfect. Yes, thank you. The other thing is if you forget to remove those additional pays, you're gonna pay them. So we did add a button last year. We did add a button last year. At the bottom of this, it says remove all. So just when you're done with payroll, hit remove all and that will take them out. The other thing we added, last year, because so many people asked us for it, lots of people like to actually print and hand them a bonus check. Feel like it's just more special. And if you want to do that and you use direct deposit, you want to turn it off because you don't want to create a direct deposit. So you turn it off here and then you can turn it back on here. So it'll turn it off for everybody and it'll turn it back on for everybody so that you're not having to go in and remove the one from everybody's account. So like I said, there's multiple ways to do that. If you have questions, might have answers. There's also some training out there on how to do the different bonuses on the training website. Any questions on bonuses before I move on? Okay. Next up is cleaning up the year. I highly recommend that you clean up the end of the year at the end of the year. There's no reason to go into a new year with a mess. So void any checks that are more than 2 years old. Do that in 2024. If you can void them, don't wait. Do it now. Don't move those over. They're just going to cause you troubles. Look for any EFTs that are more than 30 days old. I can't say that enough. Those do not pull over well. It gets confused. So make sure that you get those cleaned out. Plus, you want to make sure that if you have something that you thought you paid, that you get it paid out of your 2024 funds. If you find out in 2025, after you've closed out 2024 that you paid it, you're going to have to pay it out of 2025 funds. So make old and unused vendors inactive. My recommendation is to go into the vendors screen and file maintenance. Just go through them. If you think you're not going to use them, get them out of there so you don't accidentally use them. There's an inactive button. Don't delete them because then you lose history. So just make them inactive. Balance every bank account. Every single one. Checking, savings. I don't care if you don't spend anything out of it. Balance it at the end of the year. Make sure you upload all of those to State Board of Accounts. If you have, Hoosier Start, if you have anything, you need to balance it. I know some of the Hoosier Starts only get quarterly statements. You want to do those quarterly, that's one thing, but you need to balance at the end of the year. Everything needs to balance. So make sure that you've got check reconciliation worksheet for every single account that you have. Make sure the fund and bank balances match. That is, does everybody know where that is? Does everybody know how to find that? Bottom of the financial report are your funds and your banks. If they ever don't match, call me because you're going to have a hard time finding it. But we need to figure that out. It needs to match. Brenda.
How do you make vendors inactive?
How do we make vendors inactive? Okay, I will show you. So we go into accounting. Would help if I could see. So we go into, is that the vendors? Okay, we go into the vendor screen and there's a checkbox on the far right. You just check that box, that will make them inactive. The thing that the enhancement we added last year was when you go to add a new vendor, it actually checks to see if you have an inactive one and will pop up and say, hey, I found one with this same name. Do you want to just make it active? People were worried about that. So it does that now. I will say that it has to be the same name. It can't, if you do it differently, it won't. But that's kind of nice because, you maybe have someone you paid 2 years ago. They didn't do a program this year, but you want to use them again. Then you keep track of that you paid. You can tell what you paid for the whole history. Questions? Get that one? Okay.
Playaway, like the name changed, like did you guys make new vendors or you just changed the name?
Okay, so the question is if a vendor changes its name, i.e. Playaway, do you change the name in the vendor or do you create a new vendor? Change the name seems to be the standard account or standard.
The reason I asked though, because if they come in on it previous years and now it's,
A different name.
yeah.
So what I would do is I'd put a note in there. There's a spot in the vendor. You can put a note in there. Just says, yeah, name change on such and such a date.
The vendor number.
It'd be the same vendor.
Yeah, so, there was another question I had with that. Oh, bank names. So sometimes your banks change names. Banks get bought and sold. My recommendation is for the year the bank changes their name to put the new name in the front, to put like, cause you want to be able to see it. So First Source / German American. And then you can change the official name in the next year. That way, if you're looking at if your auditor's looking for statements, they know that in that year it could be either of those. Just to make it easier. So just add the name instead of changing the name, because otherwise you're going to be like 3 years from now, you're going to look at it and go, where do these First Source statements come from? I don't even have a First Source bank. And so that helps you remember that. Okay, fun tax stuff. We've talked, well, I tried to call it fun tax stuff. Electronically, I think we've talked about all these a little bit, basically, I recommend uploading state and federal. If you have less than 10 employees, you don't have to, but why not? Why print it and mail it? Postage is like 75 cents these days. So plus it's quicker. So use the upload. It's the same file. It should work for both. You're gonna have to create it anyway. Just upload it for both. You do it in InTime. The one thing that I wanted to put here, I put it, I think, multiple places. Order your forms now. If you're going to print forms, don't wait till January. Last year, I think they were out. There were people that had trouble getting forms. So make sure that you have your forms in advance. Make sure that you get them early. Any questions on taxes? I mean, that's an open question. I don't really mean any random questions on taxes. Again, I guess I thought this was really important because I put it on here twice. W-2s are 2 per page. You want the 1099 NEC, which is 3 per page. That's what we print. If you say I want to print on a 1099 that's 2 per page, I'm going to tell you, sorry, I cannot do it. So make sure that you get those. And our year-end checklists. I'm not going to go through those. If you are in person, you picked up a copy of them, you will also get a mailed copy. Can I borrow yours? I don't have them in front of me. So there's 2. There's a payroll checklist and there's an accounting checklist. There are some things that can be done, like the front of this page is you do it in your 2025 software. The back is what you do in your 2024s. So just keep that in mind. They're step by step. They've been in use for, I don't know, 6 or 8 years now, and they're pretty self-explanatory. If you get caught on a step or need help with a step, call us. The other thing, there are some double checks in here. Remember, I like to double check. There are some double checks. Do those double checks, because what happens is you don't double check that your checks came over right, and then you can't balance in January. And you call me January, I can't balance. I'm like, well, your checks didn't come over right. Now we got a whole big process. So follow the double checks to make sure that happens. For payroll, I cannot stress enough. If the date of the check is 2025, it needs to be run in your 2025 payroll. If you do it in 2024, the tax codes aren't right. It's gonna be a mess, because trying to get it to 2025 means we have to manually change things because the taxes aren't the same anymore. So it's a real pain. If it's the check date of January 1st, you got to do it in January. If you know you have a January 1st payroll this year, I don't know where it falls, then you need to make sure you get your software before then. And if you have raises or vacation or anything that you want to do before that, you want to get that before. Any questions on those? Few warnings, let us know if you have anything special. As much as we've tried to make you guys all like in the same box, some of you have special things that, that you've had a while, so you have to remind us of that with 135 of you. I can sometimes remember like who might have some things, but I don't remember them all, especially if it's just like I have a special report or I don't like this field or, so we're trying to do less and less of that, but there are still quite a few of you that have special things. And then I put this down here because although it seems pretty self-explanatory, you must balance your checking account each month to the penny. And really that's every account. If you're not balancing every month to the penny, you need to call us. If that little bottom of your check reconciliation does not say zero, that doesn't mean you balance. That means you didn't balance. We had one bookkeeper at one point that printed the report every month, but it was never zero. And so he called us one month to have us help, and I'm like, well, show me your reports. I'm like, none of these are zero. And he's like, oh. I was like, so call us the minute it's not zero, because we had to go back to like January to figure out why he wasn't at zero. And this was like November. So, if you don't have a zero, you're not balanced. Just because you print the form does not count. And he uploaded those too. So, anyway, one little slide about done for you accounting. I don't put this in here because I want to take anyone's job, but we have had a few libraries, especially the smaller ones, that cannot find anyone to do bookkeeping. So we do that for a handful of for people. We actually have some big and small libraries actually using it now. Like I said, that's not what I want to do, but there are some of you that really have trouble finding people and only need a couple hours a month. So if you're interested in that, we do that. But like I said, not for really anybody. Scheduling updates. This link is not active right now, so you cannot schedule right this minute. You can't click it from my screen. The people on the screen can only see it. We have not sent it out to anyone yet. But probably tomorrow, I think you'll get an email with a link to schedule. It'll be about the same. It is a Microsoft Teams meeting, so it's a little different. It should be really similar to you guys. It's a little different for us, and the setup was different. We tested it like 27 times yesterday. Can you get 2 people? Can you not get 3 people? What if they cancel? Does it remove from your calendar? All those things. So it does make it super easy for you and us. You pick your time, we'll call you. You put your phone number in there, put the phone number that you want us to call you at, especially if you're scheduling before the library opens and we can't get through the switchboard. We've had that happen in the past. So if you're doing it because you're busy and crazy all day and you want to do it in the morning, give us your cell phone number. So whatever number you want us to call is the number that we need there. We asked for the library because that helps us get our brain weight. We can get all of our papers in order and everything. Although we know most of you by name, it just helps us to make it quick. Brenda.
The special instructions box, they can put it.
Oh, yeah. So there is a special instructions box. It is not mandatory. But if you have special things you want, or if you're, like talk to this person because I'm going to be off or whatever, you can put those in there. And then it should show up on your calendar. You should also get an email. If you don't get one of those, you probably didn't get it quite right. So try it again or call us. Also, if you can't make that meeting, there's a cancel button in there. So please cancel. We try to keep, we'll be doing 12 a day. So we try to keep those up and going. And I mean, not that we don't want to sit around and twiddle our thumbs. We do like to get you guys, everybody gets software. So if you aren't going to be able to attend, let us know. That's about it. I guess if you have multiple people that use it, we do need to do shortcuts on everybody's computer. So it's a whole lot easier for us if everybody's there that day and we can get on their computers. If not, it's okay, but it's easier for us if we can do them all at once, because otherwise you call in, we have to get connected. It just is a little bit, and not to say that sometimes that's not even possible. If it is possible, we appreciate it. First available date is December 16th with a caveat. December 16th is tax tables do not come out until December 15th. I do not know why. Like, how can we not figure this out by December 1st? But they don't. Last year, I thought they were coming out early. They didn't. December 15th, they released them. I can't update the tax tables in the software until December 15th. So I hate to give it to you because then I have to come back and I have to connect to your computer and I have to give you the new tax tables and it's just kind of a pain. So we're starting, if you have payroll, December 16th. If you don't have payroll, we can start December 9th. So if you have accounting only, which some of you do, the thing I will tell you is we copy your vendors over when we give you your 2025 software. So if you added a vendor at the end of 2024, after you've got your 2025 software, you need to add it both places. Because it doesn't transfer over and it kind of gets confusing if you have them with different numbers and stuff from year to year because it will show things up. So that's a caveat. If that's something you think you're gonna, a lot of people don't add them at the end of the year, but if you do, know that you have to add them both places. When should I schedule? If you are an accounting only customer, I don't care. You can schedule quickly, you can schedule. We have one customer that wants to be the last person every time. She schedules usually the end of January. She doesn't like to do it until she closes out her books for 2024. She wants to keep everything separate. But in general, if you're running payroll, has to be before your first payroll. If you do not have payroll, you probably want to do it before your first board meeting so that you can get things out. And if, and the vendor thing. So keep that in mind. If you're picky about vendors or you just don't want to do the double work, then you need to schedule a little closer. We generally schedule from about it's about a month is what it takes us to do it. We do 6 a day, 9 to 4 generally. If you are a person that only works odd hours, just shoot us an email at that accounting email address. My whole life in January generally is making sure we keep you guys afloat. So generally I can do that in the evenings and that sort of thing. So if you work at, your bookkeeper works another job or something and can't do it during the day, we're happy to accommodate that. Just let us know. Questions on scheduling? All right, contact information. This is the office line. This is my direct extension. Remember, if you're sending accounting questions to that, that's going to be the last place you'll find me. Probably in January and February, I spend all of my life on the accounting number. So use the 2254609. If you have trouble remembering that, there's mouse pads over there that have it on it. So we can be at your fingertips, literally. Pick one of those up. Any other questions for the year? Steve?
I don't have a question, I have a statement on your 1099.
Uh-huh.
You have attorney, you gotta have a 1099 miscellaneous.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay, so what Steve said is, and I can't print that, so you'll have to handwrite it. What Steve says is if you have attorney fees, they get a 1099 miscellaneous, not a 1099 NEC.
Oh, it don't have to be $600, any cost.
Oh, any cost to attorneys coming from the CPA, any cost to attorneys, even if they're on retainer?
You really have to have a 1099 regardless of how much you pay.
Attorneys have to have a 1099.
Is that for like an individual attorney or like if it's like
Like a company.
Like your bill?
Well, law firm is the same thing as you.
Law firm would be the same thing as what I'm hearing. Huh. These are the things that I am not experts on, just for the record. Okay, anything else? Brenda's got a question from the,
Is there a way to see if a year has been posted or not?
I mean, I can tell. Yes, if you go into the vouchers or the receipts and you don't see the edit button, you'll know it's been posted. If the edit button is there, it's not posted because it won't let you edit. That does bring up another point. I think it was somebody, the edit button. We had some people that were accidentally ran into, let me pull it up. when you go in to a voucher, and you know, you have to click on the edit button to change, to edit it. You could actually click the copy dollars button down here without hitting the edit button, and it would change things. So I spent about an hour or two trying to figure out how to make it so you couldn't hit that button, because the buttons are special, and I decided to remove the button. So you can copy dollars on a change, but I don't think anybody would really, usually you're in there changing minute things. So because what happened was somebody accidentally changed it because they hit it, because they hadn't hit edit. So I changed that. Any other questions?
This isn't a question, but like we switched over to ABC, like I think so 4 or 5 years ago, and like.
I think I need to put you on the mic.
The amount of streamlining, like it is, hey, I'm not gonna talk shit about our previous, right, but like it is so much better, and like this is so helpful, like just the little things that, like, thank you for, thank you, really. The fact that you are open to hearing what we need is just such a big change from what I've dealt with, and it's greatly appreciated.
Well, I mean, thank you very much. I mean, we do truly, I mean, we appreciate you guys too, and we really want to make your lives easier. That's our goal. So sometimes I'm not a coder, so sometimes making your life easier makes me pull my hair out. But I agree. I think that, you know, we're here as a partnership with you guys, and we're glad that you're seeing that. So
Yeah, it's apparent and it's appreciated.
tell everyone, because it would be really fun to have like 75% of the libraries. Maybe I need a new goal. Oh, see.
Would it be possible on dates that you could put in there that, you know, you couldn't put a date in if the year did not go with that particular payroll?
It
Could be changed.
was a year for the payroll.
But any-
Oh,
any-
so it does complain to you. It tells you your date's not in the right year on the vouchers, but I don't think it does on payroll. I could, that would be a good one for all those people that, I usually have one or two at the end of the year that go, I ran it in the wrong year.
Receipts or boundary the way, you know.
I will look at that. That's a good thought. We try to make it so you can't do anything that you shouldn't do on accident. Brenda?
The end of year SBOA gateway downloads, are we able to download an Excel data capture?
Yes, so, you cannot, there are certain things, like the financial report, that first screen that you have to go put all your funds, we can't do that. We looked at that a couple years ago and found that everybody has things slightly different, and for us to make it so that it uploaded and put them in the right buckets in the right places, it was just not doable. But there are reports that, too many softwares. Where am I? Done. There are reports in the report menu. This, export to Excel R and export to Excel V are the ones that you'll upload. The other thing I wanted to show, and I guess I didn't have in my slide presentation this year, was, this training button. Let's put that over there. Oop. So this is our training screen, and there is on here Gateway Reports and AVC. This is a list. I think I sat with 4 or 5 of you last year that have done it for years and said, SBOA uses this word. What does AVC use? And that's what this is. So it says, this is what they're asking for. This is what report we expect. If there are more of these that I should add, I'd be happy to add those. And that's just on the training page. So if you have other questions on that, that's a good place to go. The other thing that is there, of course, I can see nothing. Thinking way over there is a, yeah, we'll just hit the button again. Hold on. There are some other useful links there. There's also some training. Jolene did some how to transfer money videos. There are some, just SBOA guidelines. There are some other things down at the very bottom. Nope, they're moved up. Brenda moved them. There's these end of year checklists. So how to change your state tax rate, the payroll checklist, the accounting checklist. So you don't have to find it in your email or remember when we emailed it. All you have to do is go here. And that's on the training button in the software. At the end of this, there will be a users group recording if you want to listen to it again, because listening to my smiling voice is just what you want to spend your time on. You can listen to it again or watch it to see how things were answered. So those will all be there. County tax rates, if I ever see a new one, will be there too, but I haven't seen it yet. Brenda?
It would be very helpful if there was a similar document that would assist with retention schedules. Agree with that or?
Is that fixed assets, maybe? No. Oh, retention schedules for documents. Oh. All right, Kelsey's got that one, so we will try to put that in there. I don't know those rules. That is definitely beyond software support for me. But we, if we can provide information that's helpful to everyone where you can find it, that's our goal. So anything else? Last call. If you ask another question, you're between us and all the food. Maybe about okay. I'm gonna stand back over here so I can say goodbye to those of you online. We're all gonna go enjoy lunch and visit while you go back to work. So next year, come and see us. Have a good day, everybody.